Hello there, everybody, and I hope everybody's doing well and staying warm, at least those of you who are in the deep freeze or have got 4 feet of snow outside. Hope many of you are not stranded, at least those people who are in the northern hemisphere. Certain parts of the states got a lot of snow this week. But anyway, hopefully you've managed to survive that. Um, I was looking at the issue of, or thinking about the issue of time this particular week, and I read something about time being, quote, elastic, unquote. And before some of you start to scoff and think that time is not elastic, let me ask you, how many times have you started something and you thought it was going to take you like, 15 minutes and it took you 2 hours? Then again, how many times have you started a task that you thought was going to take you 2 hours, it took you 15 minutes? So I'm thinking in terms of elasticity in this particular case, in the sense that we, to a great degree, actually control how much time a task takes. Again, before you jump on me, how many times have you started to do something and you thought, oh, I'm going to need 2 hours to do this? And then you discovered that for whatever reason, you were stuck to 30 minutes and you had to run around and you got it done in 30 minutes because that's all the time you had. You're ready to go out the door, you're running late, you've got something to do, and you do whatever the task is within the time frame that you've got to do it. You've been there. I'm sure you've been there because I've been there multiple times in my life. Because it's like, those infamous times, if any of you've ever said, like, the alarm didn't go off or something went wrong in the morning or something, and you had to go through a certain set of things before you walked out the door to go to work or to go to school, and you got those things done, even though you didn't have the normal time you used to do all of that. So this is where I'm coming from with the concept of elasticity of time, because in many cases, we assign a certain amount of time to a particular task that we may or may not need, or we think we need, but we don't need, that kind of thing. Again, like I said, many of you have had tasks that you thought was going to take for a long time and then did not. I'm not talking about things like when you put in the oven, it's going to take you, so many hours to cook it or something like that. I don't mean those kinds of things. I mean that you think that you're going to need, I don't know, an hour to read a chapter in a book, and it may take you an hour and a half, but then again, it may only take you 40 minutes. Okay? So I want to discuss something about taking advantage of this particular issue. So take a look at your to-do list. First of all, the odds are you've got a to-do list that's like way back, long. And the first thing I want to suggest is you look at that to-do list and figure out what things are on there that you know from the bottom of your heart that you're never, ever, ever going to get done. But maybe they're on that list simply because A, you told somebody you were going to put it on the list, and oh yeah, I'll get around to it. And as soon as you're writing on the list that you will never do it. You know that. Everybody else probably knows that too. You might as well take it off the list, because all you're doing is when you put things on that list like that, and you're looking at it, you get that negative implication because you've got that long list of things to do, but you're not necessarily thinking in terms of the fact of how many things on that list are you actually going to get done. How many things on that list are you actually going to need to get done? Maybe there are a lot of things on there that you want to get done, but how many things are actually on the list that you're going to get done? I want to use an analogy of a grocery list on this. Those of you who keep grocery lists, you go to the grocery store and you get the things on your list. Now, if you come home and discover that there was something on your list that you didn't get or should have put on your list, but at the grocery store you didn't get, what are the things for your groceries that you would go back to go back to the store to get, that are so necessary for you that you'd actually make that second trip back to the store to get because you didn't get them the first time? Those are the tasks, ladies and gentlemen, that should be on your to-do list. If you've got things on your grocery store list that are on your list that you may go ahead and buy, that are probably sitting on your shelves, and the only thing they're going to do is add calories or, I don't know, take up space, take them off your list. Your to-do list, that is. Off the grocery list too while you're at it. Do you see what I'm talking about here? Because if you take a look at your to-do list, you've only got certain things on there that you don't have the time, all the time in the world, to get everything done that you want to get done. Okay? So that's the first rule. Take a look at what's actually on the list that you need to do. Now, as you're going through the list, think in terms of how long certain things can take and what your schedule's like. Now, if, um, let's say you need to read a chapter in a book for some particular reason, assign yourself a certain amount of time, and that's all the time you're going to do it. Maybe set a kitchen timer or something like that. There's a Pomodoro, Pomodoro technique that might be able to be helpful for this, and I might talk more about that at some point. But it gives you a certain amount of time to get certain tasks done, and you do it within those times. Then you take a break, and then you set another timer to get it done, etc. But in this particular case, let's say, as I said, let's say you've got a chapter in the book to read. So you're going to give yourself an hour to read it. Set your timer, and that's it. At the end of that hour, or 40 minutes, or whatever you set the timer for, you stop reading and you go on to the other task. Maybe you set another timer for the other task. Now you're going to say, but I'm not reading it. Okay, yeah, look at it this way. Maybe you didn't get that entire chapter read. Maybe you only read X. Let's say you're supposed to read 50 pages and you only got 35. Okay, you only got 35, but you got 35 pages read. If you hadn't done this, you wouldn't have any of them read. You'd still be, in a sense, procrastinating or thinking, well, I've got to do it. And then if you were reading this for a class, or you were reading because you had to go into a talk to a book club or some such thing like that, at least you've gotten a certain amount of pages read, and that's been accomplished. Would you rather read a certain amount of it and acknowledge the fact that you didn't finish all of that and maybe find time to do it later? Or would you rather go into your class or into your book club or whatever it is and say, well, I only had time and I only read up to 35 pages? At least you have the comfort of knowing that something got done. So if you didn't finish it all, at least you got something done. Now, on the other hand, let's say you assigned yourself an hour and set that timer for an hour to read it, and you got it done in less than an hour. Then you feel really good about it. You've got some extra time that maybe you can, use to relax, or maybe find another little task that you can do that you didn't expect to have. Let's say you take 45 minutes and you've read the book in 45 minutes. Now you've got 15 minutes that you can work on something else or relax or whatever you want to do. Depending on your circumstances, you may want to find a short little task that you can do in 15 minutes, or maybe assign yourself that 15 minutes and see if you can get it done in 10. So when you're looking at some of your tasks, try and look at it from the standpoint of, I'm going to get this done, or I'm going to do or use X amount of time to do this task. And then that's the time you use. The thing about it here is you're more likely to get things done than if you just keep putting them off because you're looking for the 2 hours or the 3 hours or whatever it is you think you need to get the whole task done. You're probably going to accomplish more when you set that time frame up and get those things done than when you don't do anything at all and then you feel bad at the end of the day because you look at that list of things to do and you didn't get any of it done. Does this make sense? Try it. Now, I'm not saying you do everything in the world this way. Who knows? You might want to try it and see what happens. Maybe you try and do a couple little tests that way and then discover that this works out real well for you. Just set up a time and say, okay, between 3 and 4, I'm going to do this, and between 4 and 5, I'm going to do this, and that's the time you give it. And if it doesn't get done, come to a good stopping space, but recognize the fact that if you didn't do that particular hour of it, you wouldn't get any of it done at all. And then you'd probably feel better for at least getting some things done than the way you would feel because you didn't get anything on your list or a lot of the things on your to-do list done. I hope this makes sense, and I hope you can find it useful. And, let me know how it worked. Try it. Try it out. I'm going to challenge you this week. I know that I started to say this is a bad week to try it, but this may actually be a really good week to try it because we're now starting into the holiday season, at least, in the States, for most people, I think, actually. So go try and see what happens. Can you get more done when you set it up and just do a little bit? Maybe you might find, let's say, wrapping gifts or something like that. You may find that you do better if you wrap one gift a day than if you try and schedule 2 hours or whatever to do them all at once. Try it and see what happens. I challenge you to write it and read it back and let me know how it worked. And be really, really seriously, really curious because I'd like to tell everybody how you folks found that this worked for you. Okay? So I hope you found this helpful, and we will chat with you later. Have a good week and stay warm. Those of you who are in the Northern Hemisphere, anyway. Those of you in the Southern Hemisphere, enjoy your weather.